The name Hemingway is synonymous with all things writing, and his letters to other writers are jam-packed full of insights into his process and his methods that we writers can steal and use for ourselves. So I've picked out some of the best ones. The best way is always to stop when you're going good and when you know what will happen next. If you do that every day when you're writing a novel, you'll never be stuck. This might be the most useful piece of practical writing advice that I've seen. If you write novels, or if you write anything really, you're probably familiar with the feeling of getting down on paper everything that you had planned or everything that you wanted to say and drawing a line under it, and then coming back the next day, sitting down and facing a blank page. It's so much harder to get going when you need to figure out where you're going at the same time. It's harder to accelerate to a good speed when you're starting with the brakes on. But if you resist the urge to keep going while you've still got ideas in mind and you're still enjoying writing and you don't really want to stop, then you'll be all the more excited when you sit down to write the next time you come to it. You'll get up to speed so much quicker, and then while you're in that state, it's much easier to figure out where you need to go next. And this doesn't just apply to discovery writers either. If you're a planner and you've got a bullet point list of everything that you want to happen in your novel, you can still end up getting to that point where you feel like you're out of ammo. Leaving a little bit of story there or not quite finishing a section, I think is a great way to just get yourself started again the next time you sit down to continue your story. Imagine never sitting in front of a blank page and not knowing where to go next. It's pretty valuable. I love to write, but it's never gotten any easier to do, and you can't expect it to if you keep trying for something better than you can do. This is the struggle, constantly wanting to feel more comfortable and better at writing so that you can be more productive, so that it feels easier, so that it doesn't take as long. The thing is though, I think Hemingway's right. If you want to get better at writing, then you're always going to feel somewhat uncomfortable and it's always going to feel difficult because you're constantly learning new skills that you wanted to put into practice and building on them and learning new ones and building on them. That's how you become a better writer, and it's a goal that's worth going for. But by itself, I don't think it necessarily means all that much. Where the meaning comes in, I think, is that getting better allows you to write better stories, bigger stories, more complex stories. All of that stuff you'll probably love writing, but as Hemingway said, it won't feel easier. The only way writing ever feels remotely easy to me is when I've settled into something that I already know I'm going to feel quite comfortable writing. And purposefully or not, whenever I'm writing something like that, I'm hiding from the parts of writing that will really challenge me and force me to get better. And the question I always come back to then is, if that's the case, is that the kind of writing that I really want to write? I think we should never be too pessimistic about what we know we've done well, because we should have some reward, and the only reward is that which is within ourselves. Publicity, admiration, adulation, or simply being fashionable are all worthless. This is something I'm terrible at. I never give myself any credit for the things that I've achieved with my writing. It's something I'm working on trying to get better at. But as well as that, this tip brings to mind the word honesty for me. And in particular, being honest about what motivates you as a writer and being honest about that with yourself. A cycle that I think it's really easy to fall into is to start a novel full of confidence that you're going to get it published. And then a little way in, you think, maybe it's not quite as publishable as I thought. And then you decide, yeah, definitely I'm going to struggle to get this published. And then you veer off a little bit and go, well, maybe I don't want it to be published. In fact, yeah, definitely I don't want it to be published. I'm just writing this for me. Yeah, all my satisfaction just comes from having done it. That's all I need. I've fallen into this cycle myself many times before, and I'll probably do it again. But is it true? Honestly, do I just get satisfaction from writing, and am I happy with that? And is that what I do it for? Or is there some kind of element of hoping for success and outside validation too? Of course there is. There always will be. But I think what Hemingway said about finding reward within yourself is really important, because that kind of reward is available to every single writer. We can all take pride in what we do and satisfaction in having written it, if we can figure out how to do it mentally. But unfortunately, the other kind of outside validation reward just isn't available to most writers. So that inner reward is all the more important because it's probably the only one most of us will ever get. Another reason that the word honesty came to mind when I read that tip is because I don't think I agree with Hemingway. I think if you're motivated by outside validation, if you want to hit those bestseller lists or make a bunch of money with your writing, I think that's all right. I think it's fine to use that as your motivation. If you're dissatisfied with what you've achieved with your writing or you want to achieve more, I think that can spur you on in the same way that being pleased with what you've written can. It's okay, I think, if chasing success is your driving force. I think the fuel is less important than the direction that you steer the car in. It's all very well for you to write simply, and the simpler the better, but do not start to think so damn simply. Know how complicated it is, and then state it simply. This tip is a better version of an often recited piece of writing advice about stating everything in simple terms and using plain English in your stories. And that tip probably came from this letter of Hemingway's because he's well known for doing exactly that in his stories. However, unlike the Cliff Notes version, I think there's actually a bit more nuance to what Hemingway's saying here than just use plain English. I don't think it's really about those words, or they shouldn't be the focus anyway. It's about the thing that you're trying to describe, that complicated thing, as he says. It's not about making sure your entire book is written in such clear and simple language that no one could ever misunderstand even one line of it. It's about taking something complicated and complex and vague and dense and stating that as simply as you can. It makes me think of those hyper-realistic statues you see that are just incredibly elaborate, but they were created using a hammer and chisel, the simplest of tools. That's probably a bit of a cliche, I know, but that's because there's an element of truth to it. The easiest way to communicate something to another person, or in this case a reader, is to make it as clear and unambiguous as you can, by avoiding words like unambiguous, probably. Invention is the finest thing, but you cannot invent anything that would not actually happen. This is what we're supposed to do when we're at our best. Make it all up, but make it up so truly that later it'll happen that way. This one strikes pure fear into my heart as someone that's just come back to novel writing from a long holiday in short fiction. Credible, authentic, realistic, these are all things that stories should be, and all things that are really difficult to actually apply to your writing. I'm constantly asking myself, would that really happen? Would this person really do that? Is that how that works? But at the same time, I'm trying to steer the plot where I need it to go. There's parts of the plot that absolutely have to happen, otherwise the story won't make sense. But I worry that people will read it and then say, I don't think so, mate. I love being immersed in a story when I read, and that's what I want to give to whoever reads my writing. But immersive stories aren't filled with unrealistic things and things that would never happen. It's a constant battle between being realistic and moving the plot where it needs to go. And something that helps me, I think, is to try to define exactly what needs to be realistic. Or as Hemingway says, what has to be made up, but made up truly. If we were making everything that we ever write completely realistic, then fiction itself wouldn't exist. Never mind stuff like sci-fi and fantasy, where there are worlds that don't exist and forces that defy the laws of physics. However, those stories do exist, and a lot of them are really realistic. That's because, in my opinion, this concept of writing truly applies most not to the genre or the setting of a book, but to the characters, and specifically the choices and decisions that a character makes. We all know that readers have to empathize with a character in order to really get into a story. They have to feel like the choices or situations that a character is facing are in some way real. So if you think back to the last time you said, well, that's totally unrealistic, when you were reading something or watching something, I bet it's because a choice that a character made or some action that they took made no sense. From what you know to be true human behavior from your many years spent being a human, it's all too obvious when a character's actions or choices don't reflect their motivation or their situation. If you feel that in your writing, then that's a good time to go back over what you've written and to figure out whether you are writing truly. If a character really would never do the thing they've done, but they have to for the plot, then go back, change earlier decisions, move things around until either it makes sense for the character to make that choice, or they have no other option. Otherwise, in my opinion, you risk making your readers roll their eyes, and then the impact of anything that happens afterwards in the story is a bit diminished. Once you're into the novel, you have to go on, so there's no sense to worry. As soon as you start to think about it, stop it. Think about something else. You have to learn that to write a novel. The hard part about a novel is to finish it. We've all heard the writing advice that the hardest part of any novel is finishing it. It's often recited advice, but that's because it's true. But I think there's a little more nuance in Hemingway's words here if we look for it. There's no sense to worry. He's not saying just be disciplined and keep writing, and he's not saying put the effort in and work hard at your writing. He's saying don't worry, just keep going. You won't have all the answers, you won't always feel like you're up to the task, you might not feel like you have any idea what you're doing. Don't worry, just keep going. My favourite quote about writing is this one from Gene Wolfe, and I'm pretty sure I've already recited this multiple times on my channel. You never learn to write a novel, you just learn to write the novel that you're writing. I've written 7 different novels, some of them just first drafts, but most of them completed. And every single one of them has felt like that to me. They all needed totally different treatment, they all needed different parts to make them. I didn't know completely what I was doing with any of them, really, and some of them I'm quite happy with. I like them, even though I chose not to do anything with them. None of them came out really terrible. I'll be honest, not knowing is a huge part of the writing process for me. You can't always know if you're doing a great job as you're writing a first draft of anything, and constantly trying to know that can really slow your progress. I don't know if my current book is going to work, or to some extent where I'm exactly going with it, but I'm just going to keep writing until it's finished. There's no sense to worry. But of course, it's not that simple. There's always going to be things that occupy your mind as you're writing. It's only natural, but the key, I think, is to hear those things and just keep writing anyway. A lot of writing is about momentum. Once you get going, just ensuring that you keep moving. Keep writing at a sustainable and steady pace, whatever that is for you. That can be all it takes to make the difference between a half-finished, half-imagined story and a completed first draft, especially if it's your first novel. Something that I think is well worth remembering is that there's far more than one way to tell a story. And knowing that and embracing that can really help to break down some of those productivity barriers, because how you write a story is every bit as important to your productivity and how the thing turns out as what you actually write. Have a think about how you're writing your novel, and then watch this video next for some ideas about how to mix it up a bit if it's right for your story.